So I'm Alex Norton. I'm one of the analysts at Hyperion, and I'm going to share some recent results from some research we've done on HPC in the public cloud. So to start, I want to make sure everyone's clear of what we're talking about when we talk about the public cloud. So this is any HPC or HPC-enabled workloads that are running in third-party hosted resources. So this could be on a CSP like AWS, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, or it could be on vendors like Dell, HPE, IBM, who host gear and you can move your workloads onto that gear. We also track private clouds, but that's a separate category than what I'm talking about today. So right now we're seeing about 70% of HPC sites are running something in the cloud. This could be anywhere from small jobs to rather large jobs, but 70% are running something. This is quite a large jump in the past 8 years, where we were seeing around 13% of sites using the cloud in 2011. In a recent study, we actually found that about 20% of workloads on average were moving to the cloud from on-premise HPC systems. This is a major uptick from our last figure, which was about half that at 10%. So we see there is some movement going to the public cloud. More workloads are moving, and we're tracking when that major adoption is going to happen, when kind of the elbow is going to hit. The ultimate limiter in cloud growth right now is data locality. Moving data is expensive. Where that data is located and the security issues and the tensions around that is one of the key barriers right now to major cloud adoption. We've also seen a shift in heterogeneity among cloud providers as well. AWS with their alphabet of offerings, including FPGAs and GPUs, their Inferentia chip that's coming out. Google has TPUs on their platform, and then Azure with their collaboration with a bare metal Cray. So this is a forecast of the overall market, and I know this was shown probably earlier today and yesterday, but the key thing to know here is that including the HPC end user spend on public cloud resources, this market by 2023 should grow to $44 billion. And this is our current cloud forecast. I will say to pay attention, because as Hyperion Research, we keep 5-year forecasts, so this will be updated in the coming months, but you can see the continuous growth of the size of this market. And I want to make extremely clear that this market is end user spending. So this is how much each end user site is purchasing in compute resources in the public cloud. So I just want to touch a minute on the cloud tool. I know many of you have seen me talk about it before, or maybe have gone on and looked at it. But we wanted to create an interactive tool for end users to understand where the friction points of their workload was for moving into the cloud. So it's a simple 10 characteristic scale. So each characteristic has a scale from 1 to 10. You can go through, check what you think where your workload falls, and then at the end you'll get a scorecard, and that will tell you whether your application can work in the public cloud, whether it should stay in an on-premise system, or if it's somewhere in between. This tool is not designed to be kind of pro-cloud or pro-on-premise. It's supposed to be a general understanding for what are some of the friction points for your application, what may be preventing it from moving to the cloud if you want it to move to the cloud, or what may be keeping it in an on-premise system if that's where you want to keep it. So it's supposed to be a way for you to understand more deeply where your application falls. So I encourage and ask everyone to go check it out. If you have any questions, any comments, if you have feedback, please let me know. We want it to evolve as this market and this group of end users evolves as well. So now a couple results from a recently concluded study We're constantly conducting these large-scale surveys on the cloud, probably once every couple of months. This specific study was to understand the cloud from an end-user perspective. So what are they using? What's their hardware, software? What's the ecosystem like? And how are they finding the experience? So as I touched on earlier, the first really key striking data point that we got was that in the study, an average of 33% of the jobs from end users were running in the cloud. Now we had to extrapolate that out to the entire end user base, but by moving it wider, we see somewhere in the 20% range of all HPC jobs are now being run in the public cloud from end users who are HPC identified end users. Additionally, about over half of the users in this study reported that they were using the cloud in some type of hybrid environment. And interestingly, burst computing was not the #1 use case for using a hybrid environment. It was actually experimentation cycles. So people who wanted to run multiple runs of the same experiment were able to do so on the cloud to shorten their time to development. And then there's a new group of users that we're trying to capture, which are cloud native, or I've heard cloud first or cloud born users. But these are users who don't own any on-premise hardware. They exist in the cloud. So their data comes from sensors or other sources. It lives in the cloud. Their applications are developed in the cloud. And we're seeing that of the end users in the recently concluded study, about 40% are in this bucket. So these are people who think that who know that every one of their applications can run in the cloud, and they can do everything they need to do in a cloud environment without ever owning on-premise hardware. So this is an interesting group of people who, different than those who are trying to move or don't know how to move, or they're finding barriers to their movement. These are users who have completely lived in the cloud. And we asked a similar question of the providers, and they said that there are about a third of the providers said that there are jobs that they don't advise people to run in the cloud. So we're seeing that there are still some jobs that aren't yet ready for the cloud, but there are also users who live entirely in the cloud. So just a couple concluding slides on some interesting points. Right now, industry is the fastest adopter of HPC cloud resources. The security issues are what kind of keep the government end users from moving, and the price is still quite high, especially for academic users. So industry is right now leading in terms of moving workloads to the cloud. We heard earlier that bio-life sciences and oil and gas and a lot of the new AI workloads run very well in the cloud. So a lot of those users are starting to move those workloads into a public cloud environment. We also see that there is an inflection point coming. Adoption is growing, and we're trying to keep as close to when that will be as possible. Obviously, it's a challenging thing to predict, so we're trying to survey end users as often as we can to understand when that adoption rate is going to reach an inflection point. One thing that I've been trying to think about is the TCO analysis that end users are running right now needs to fundamentally shift in order for this inflection point to happen. There needs to be a way for end users to understand the non-quantified characteristics of owning a system on-premise versus what they could be doing in a cloud. Things like waiting in a queue, or not having access to the most updated hardware, or not having access to the right hardware for their job, is something that needs to be incorporated into a TCO analysis for there to be a better understanding of where an on-premise cost compares to a cloud cost. And as I said, so it's growing. We think it's going to be more like a step function. So there will be major jumps, and then there'll be a slow growth period, and then a major jump again as we move forward. HPC on-premise and the cloud environment will start to mimic each other, especially as hybrid cloud becomes more prominent and as the containerization of HPC kind of grows. 5G will be extremely important for reducing latency for AI, especially as the edge and the cloud start to play a bigger role in use cases like smart city, automated driving, and then the cloud environment will be an extremely viable use case for a lot of HPC end users moving forward. If you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Alex, is there a detailed report that Hyperion has, or will you be producing one that would really break that down from not just the modeling of the growth of the market for cloud, which I think when you showed it that was based on revenue, but something that would really break down the demographics of the users and the types of applications and things like that?
That is something that I am currently developing right now, so look out for that. It'll be coming as soon as I finish it. Any other questions?
And thanks, Alex. I'd add on to the wish list when you're looking at breaking it down not only by application, but whether or not those applications are a software provider or whether or not they're user-developed applications, as well as the nature of those applications, because that's pretty critical to what the barriers are. Thanks very much.
Yes. Thank you. Lloyd, over here.
Yeah, you mentioned security as one of the issues preventing people from moving their workloads to the clouds. What type of security? What are we talking about? Data security, execution, operation environment security? Like what is exactly is happening? You think?
So we're seeing multiple aspects of security. So one of the security issues is when you're moving data into the cloud. And then once it's in the cloud, there is some security issues there. I will say that security is becoming a less crucial issue now. That has kind of been replaced by cost as the #1 barrier that we're seeing from end users. So I think end users are starting to understand that the security protocols by cloud providers are better than they thought, and they can actually move their data in safely. Their data is safe once it's in there. So cost is actually becoming a bigger issue. But I know that with HIPAA and ITAR and GDPR, and the cloud providers have reacted to that and increased their security. So it's becoming less of an important issue, but there is still an attachment to data that users have, especially HPC users, that they want to know where their data is, and they want to make sure 100% that they can reach out and touch it whenever they want, and that it's 100% safe. So it's continuing to be an issue, but it's becoming less important than cost.
Saying this as data security issue, not necessarily the operating environment or the application security, like running your application and
what we've heard is on the data security side. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So commenting off of your statement about the lack of adoption from academia and stuff like that. So in your opinion, what do you think can be done to help?
To help academia move to the cloud?
Yeah, to help to get into the cloud. If from either their side or the cloud side too.
In my opinion, I think cost is a big one. From a lot of our surveys, we see cost as the #1 barrier, and we see academia being the slowest moving, slowest number. So I think on the provider side, like giving lower cost for academia or more affordable cloud resources is definitely a step in the right direction. I don't think there's any big difference between the workloads that academia is running versus some of the industrial users.
I would argue against that, but okay.
I'm open to an argument too if you want.
Well, I mean, there's big supercomputers here, right? They're doing full machine runs. Doing that in a public cloud is going to be obviously very costly.
Yeah.
I mean, when does that investment actually pay off when you move to the cloud versus having something just on site and maintaining it? It's a tough question to answer.
Well, it goes back to my earlier comment as well, as understanding what the TCO of a system is. And when you buy an on-premise system, you're committing to a technology platform for multiple years. So you have to understand that technology advancements are going to happen while you've committed to a system. So there's that aspect of the kind of the return on investment for the cloud versus on-premise as well. There's a lot of things that don't necessarily go into a bill when you talk about costs. So I think, but academia is an interesting one. I'll have to think more about that.
Yeah, I'm just commenting that it's still a very big challenge to scale at an affordable price, right? So.
Thanks very much, Alex. Oh, one last question.
No, I was just going to comment there that, I mean, at least the research we've done, we work together, is that it really is depending on the application. There are some applications like in molecular dynamics that are way less expensive for pharmaceutical companies to run in public clouds because they're like humiliatingly parallel and so forth. And there are other applications that are a lot more expensive to run in the cloud, and we've kind of tracked which categories are which.
All right, Alex, thanks very much.